fiddle with this a little bit. There we go. Today, as we've been going through our journey, we've kind of been marching our way through the spiritual practice of good action since we started March 19th, and here we are on May 28th. So we've been doing this for over 2 months. This is like our 8th or 9th meeting. So some people are here, have been here almost every week. There may be some people who are here for the first time. Is anyone here for the first time today? Just unmute yourself and let us know and say hi. Anybody? Okay, well, we're all, everybody's welcome, and you're welcome to bring friends along. So what are we going to learn about order? Well, the first thing I like is I love this statement from Pirkei Avot. First things first and last things later. This is the mantra for the soul trait. I'm curious, and you may unmute yourself. What does this bring up for you? What stands out for you, and how does this resonate for you? This idea of first things first and last things later.
This is Joanne. First things first. I do have like kind of routine in the morning, and part of it is this medication I need to take. And if I let myself get distracted and not do what I need to do first, I might forget to take my medication, which has happened like once a week, almost every week. It's frustrating. Trying to, have to focus when I get up, and not start doing, I tend to get distracted and start doing other things. I need to stick to the routine and then, write down like what I need to do today maybe and go on from there.
Thank you, Joanne. Yeah, that's a wonderful example of how this mantra can help us maintain that focus or establish that focus and remind us, of our top priority. What else, Janet?
I'm reminded of what a couple of coworkers said decades ago, that they had this morning routine that you don't do the laundry until the bed is made and the dishes are done.
I'm reminded of, this is Carol, I'm reminded of something that when I was teaching, I was really overloaded a lot. And I had a friend that said to me that he was a high school special ed teacher, and he said it was just crazy back in New York City, in Brooklyn, I think. And he said that his principal said to him, Steve, first things first, second things never. Now, I don't know as I would go that far, but I think he was saying that the really important things need to get done, and those trivial things maybe don't need to get done, that you need to look at what's important and focus on that. And then, later if you have time to do some of those trivial things, fine, whatever, but that they're not important. For me, I have the same issue with medication. If I don't remind myself to take it, I've been known to forget. So, and I can't do that. It's not a good idea. So thank you for sharing that. Who was that shared that? I appreciate it.
Joanne.
Joanne, thank you.
I have to stick to a schedule, and I found that very helpful. And I get up and I walk in the morning, usually with a friend, and we stay a safe distance apart. So that's good for your heart and lungs. And I have to move or it won't be healthy. So I go for a really long walk, and it's about the socialization too with me because I'm living alone. And I have always found throughout my life that I need a lot of structure. So pretty much I have a schedule that I stick to, and that's what I do, and that really helps me. And I have a lot of things that I have to do. Either I'm playing bridge online or I'm at Mussar or different obligations like that. And I put them first, and then there's no time for worry, actually. So I found that to be very helpful because if I stick to my schedule, I don't do well with a lot of time on my hands.
Mm.
I really don't. I'm a very active person. So I make a schedule, I stick to it, and those are first things first. And then hopefully I don't have enough time to really ruminate, or I don't watch the news endlessly. If I watch it for an hour a day, that's my limit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty organized.
Great, thank you.
Oh, I'm not.
Thank you. So we've heard two things, from the various speakers, one is about prioritization and two is about scheduling, which are both really important aspects of the soul trait of honor.
Greg?
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, I see this phrase a little differently in my mind. It's, for me, it's more about living in the moment and living in the now and handling what I have in front of me at this moment. And then the next thing, and then the next thing, and not obsessing or worrying about what might be happening and what if, but just working with small little increments of living in the now.
Beautiful. I love that. Yes, thank you. I found I'm not a very organized person. I'm not good at scheduling. I've trained myself and I've gotten better, but as I wrote in the chapter, I was so messy in college that my neatnik roommate, became messy himself. So one thing that really struck me about this was the last things later, because it doesn't say last things last, because you have your first thing, you get that done, and then who knows what's going to become next. Who knows what does the last thing even mean? No one's to-do list is ever done. We don't ever know when our last moment's going to be. So it's really, I think that also goes well with what Lainey was saying. We can spend all this mental energy like planning out every detail of something which is going to happen next week, and then it rains or something, you get a cold and you can't do anything. So when you're in bed. So I really love that idea of staying present and staying in the now. As promised, let's flip over and take a little look at Torah, maybe a little earlier than we would have in honor of Shavuot. May I have a volunteer to read this?
Sure. The Israelites shall camp each with their standard under the banners of their ancestral house. They shall camp around the tent of meeting at a distance.
Thank you, Judah. So why in the world would there be instructions? To place this in the context, there was just Numbers chapter 1 was a listing of, there was a census, and it had how many men over the age of 20 were in each of the 12 tribes. So after that, then they talked about having people camp under their standards, et cetera, et cetera. So why is this important? In a book which has influenced the lives of our people for thousands of years, this was given quite a bit of space, and it enumerates on this quite a bit. So why is this important, and how does it relate to order?
I can think of two, some say somewhat practical reasons.
Okay.
One is that if the leadership wanted to find a particular person in a very large gathering of people, much more useful to know, since you presumably would know what tribe any given person belonged to. You go to their tribe and you can ask around the leaders of the tribe, and they presumably should rapidly be able to find whoever it was. And secondly, to the extent that there was any tension or feuding going on, if you keep people from getting together in ways where they might start having little disputes, you'll probably have a lot more peaceful camp. Of course, you'll have fights within each tribe, but presumably they've got, again, the tribal elders have got mechanisms for sorting those out.
Yeah, so great. So And so then what could we, okay, well, I see Judah has his hand up before I ask my next question. I can't always see your hand, so feel free to just speak. So Judah?
Well, I mean, it's making order, and it's, you know, telling people where they belong and putting things in order. And the fact that it says they shall camp around the tent of meeting at a distance, that's setting boundaries.
Mm.
So I think that this is like a paradigm that's making for a healthy lifestyle.
Mm.
And, you know, because probably all of the tribes wanted to be close to something special. I mean, this way, if it's set out, then you're doing away with future arguments, and so it's just, again, the Seder, the order makes for an easier living.
Mm. Yeah, thank you.
They also wanted to have the Levites all around the tent of meeting, like kind of like maybe sort of a barrier, you know. And also then when they marched, when they had to move in this order so that maybe people didn't get lost and, you know, stayed with their group and that kind of thing. So they'll have their banner, and, you know, it will be more orderly than people just rushing around or trying to get ahead of each other, or what, you know, could be real chaos.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've heard a couple of things. There are practical issues about finding people. There is kind of avoiding chaos. There is boundaries, and there's having people know their place. Can anyone think of a way they might want to apply one of those lessons to their life right now?
Well, we're all keeping our distance. I mean, I don't know, but I don't go out shopping, so I don't know this
Mm-hmm.
from personal experience. But I have seen pictures where people actually have lines where they have to stand
Mm-hmm.
when they stand in line to shop, to check out, and places where, you know, we each keep an ordered distance. And in Italy, where they're known for disorder, they've apparently been abating. They're known for disorder and not paying much attention to the conventions.
Mm.
They're all paying attention to the conventions now.
Yeah. And are these, do you think people would have just, thank you, that's a great example, Carolyn. Do you think people would have done these things on their own?
I don't know. So I think some people are doing them on their own, and some people are having to be told, you need to do this.
Right.
You know, I started isolating on my own before Gavin Newsom said, you need to do this.
Yeah, because I noticed the text says they shall camp. You know, this is a command from on high, quite literally, right? This was the supreme authority through Moses was giving this instruction. And sometimes, you know, right now we have government authority or different government authorities that are giving us instructions about boundaries. And like the Israelites in the desert, especially in the book of Numbers, there's a lot of people grumbling now. You know, not everybody's on board with, I suspect there were like, you know, why are we on the east side of the tent? You know, because we get woken up by the sun in the morning, or why are we on the south side? It's really hot there. And why didn't we get to be on the north like such and such a tribe did?
I think that it could also be abstracted out, especially right now with a lot of us working remotely. I know at least for me, this is an issue. Having actual set boundaries between work and my personal life has been pretty difficult. So the idea of, you know, workspace is workspace, work time is work time, and then my time with my family, my time with my hobbies, my time on here, I need to leave work to the side in order to actually be able to fully be present here. So the idea of setting aside specific space where a part of your life, a sector of your life exists, can be really helpful to keep them from overwhelming each other.
Hmm. Yeah,
Right.
that's a great example. Yes.
This is Eliana. I had an idea about an example of what's happening today as
Mhm.
compared to the Jewish back then. The protesters that won't wear a mask, that want to open the economy, I mean, they could be likened to the section, we don't want to be on the south side, we don't want to be on the north side. They do not have the good of the community in mind. They want what they want, and they are disrupting the order of things, and they want to create their own order.
Yeah, so there's certainly a parallel in sort of resisting the directive from the central authority because they have a different idea about the right thing to do. And
Well, too bad there's no central authority. It's a good thought, though.
right. Any other thoughts here? I stopped sharing so I could see you all, but we can go back to the share if there are no other comments on this section.
I do.
Oh, okay. Sure, Wendy.
Well, if you've ever been to a band competition, you know there's like 12 schools and they're all over the place and they all have their banners and it's organized chaos almost. But I think it makes Israel stronger to have this kind of order. And also, my son's bar mitzvah, we made banners and put them on the table. So he had the 12 tribes. It was his portion. So if you see them, they're beautiful. And it's like, you kind of gives them camaraderie and makes them a little team. So big team actually. But also when people are standing, the trumpets are standing one place, the phoniums are another, the drums are another, you don't have them just all over the band because that will not be a successful concert or symphony. So I think it's strengthening. I think it strengthens.
Yeah, one of the things that Rabbi Eliyahu Dessler taught about order is some things just don't work if they're not ordered correctly. If you went to a band competition or my daughters did dance, and it's like, if you didn't have a good schedule of when the dancers were going on, you just couldn't have the competition. And if everyone didn't have their own dressing room, you just would have had absolute chaos. It's also interesting what, you sort of talked about sometimes chaos within the order. It's also interesting what this doesn't say. And even in the subsequent chapters, there are limits on this. It doesn't say it doesn't tell you how to pitch your tents. It doesn't tell you, which direction to pitch your tents. And actually, from other readings, it's clear that people could face their tents so that each person had their own level of privacy. So it's, it's also, I think, speaks, because by what it doesn't say, it speaks to the importance of having balance within order, not to go too much, too heavily on the side of order. And I think that's I'm going to sort of jump ahead to the spectrum of order, because we've been talking about sort of the benefits of having things being orderly. What happens if we have too much order, and how might that have shown up in your life or be showing up in your life today?
I found that if you are like me and are a little too attached to your planner and try to plan out every part of your day, there's really no room for spontaneity. There isn't there isn't really space for you to go, oh, you know what? So-and-so just mentioned grabbing lunch together. I'm going to go do that without feeling somewhat guilty that you're cutting something else out to make the time. And I feel like it can make you hesitant to be enthusiastic, to embrace that because too much order can make you feel penned in and kind of locked down.
Yeah, that's great. And absolutely a lack of enthusiasm, a lack of spontaneity. Other thoughts?
This is Carol. I found that too much constriction, too much structure can stifle creativity. I taught elementary school, and my favorite thing to teach was writing. I loved to teach the kids to write, even the little second graders. But we were given certain formula at one point where you had to teach them this, and then this, and then this, and then this. And what I got was so stilted. And if I just said, just go ahead and write whatever you want. And then we worried about putting the order on top of it and learning organization after. What I got was so much richer. And most teachers didn't teach anything like the way I taught writing. And they could always tell. Then next year's teacher said, I can always tell when you've had the kids for writing because it's really different. They're really creative. I said, yeah, that's the point. So I think when you overlay too much order, then you have no place to move. You can't, it's like you can't drop what you're doing and do something really interesting. No, I've got to get this done. I've got to get this done. Oh my God, there's an eagle in my backyard. I'm going to go look at that eagle. To heck with what I had to get done. An eagle in my backyard? Wow. So, yeah.
That reminds me of something happened to me when I was a scientist. I was a postdoc at Stanford. And my first day in the lab, I'm like really working hard to like get my experiment done. And my advisor comes in and he says, sunset alert. And so he says, oh, come, check out the sunset. And I'm like, oh, I got to get my stuff done. And it was like this gorgeous sunset. And it's like, yeah, dude, way to make a bad first impression when the guy is nice enough to come by and invite you to see the sunset. Here I am newly in California. It's January and sunny instead of being overcast and gray and snowy in Boston where I had been living. So, getting to, and, I had never thought of that example, but is often the case when you're out of balance, you can cluster to both sides. So that was a case where I was too orderly, even though in other times I was really sort of messy. So that rigidity. Also kind of reminds us a little bit. I did that
to my coworkers once. Said, come out and see the sunset. And she thought or the moon or something. She thought I was out of my mind.
Yes. Does anyone feel like, could that be, how does like too much order maybe relate to kind of being in quarantine or being at home? How does that relate?
I find that I need to impose an order on my day or I get depressed because I don't do anything. I mean, I'm in my house cleaning it all the time and just being with my dogs. And just recently I've started like, okay, I'm going to have breakfast at 8 o'clock. I'm going to do my bills at 10 o'clock. I'm going to eat lunch, segmenting my day in such a way that my brain has something to work with. It's not just, here's the day, and then it's going to be the night. So that's what I've done to impose order, but it's not a bad order. It's good.
Mm-hmm. Irene?
Sometimes if there's too much order, if you're living with someone else or multiple other people, orders of people, the tolerance of order for different people is different.
Mm-hmm.
And too much order can create tension between the different parties who you're with.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of the things we need to negotiate, is how we're going to be compatible. I was thinking also about what Judah was saying before about order, about setting boundaries. And, our central authority has said, and the needs of and many people are voluntarily doing this, is that, hey, we have this disease, so we're going to set a boundary, and the boundary is around your home, and the boundary is between other people. And that leads to feelings of isolation, which is what I've been writing about and thinking about this week, is having too big a boundary. And I'm just wondering if at other times is too much order inherently isolating from other people. If everything really has to be exactly a certain way, is that something which can lead to isolation of some kind?
Can I say something?
Sure.
I find that people might have different levels of order for different things. Like some people might be very orderly about their meal times, but not so orderly in their home. Or their homes are very orderly, but their desks are very messy, or their art studio. Or, they're very strict about their exercise regimen, but when they go on vacation, they don't even make hotel reservations. They just wing it. So not only do we have to interface with people who have different levels of order, but different levels of order for different things.
Yeah. Well said, Leslie. Yeah, absolutely.
I was also thinking when you gave the example of, shelter in place or whatever, that also on the other side of the spectrum leads to rebellion. As we're seeing right now, that there's some people who don't like being told what to do. And so there's rebellion.
Yeah.
I'm trying to put it nicely.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I skipped over a couple of slides with a few.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Okay. I'll just say this short. I think these are all great points. What the last one just triggered something too, and that is people don't like to be ordered. And we're seeing that with people wearing masks, and I've seen people get really irate when asked to wear a mask or to please watch where you're walking. I mean, just really going overboard hostile. And when you talk about being rebellious, I had a conversation earlier today, and I'll keep this brief, but mental illness. When you're talking about, orderliness and sheltered and isolation and all that, it's coming out that seems like there's more repercussion, not so much from the virus as there is or will be with mental illness, and which all relates to where we are and what we're discussing here with Mussar and the new name that you have for this. It's very real. It's very real.
Absolutely.
And a lot of it is all the emotions through, whether it's anxiety, stress, fear, worry, all that stuff. It's all built into this, and a lot of it has to do with orderliness and how different people react. Just like what Irene was saying, and everybody. It's there's a lot to be said about that, and I think our course covers this really well. And thank you for
Ken.
leading it.
Yeah, thank you. And I think again, that's an interesting point, because we've had these boundaries imposed, which causes stress and trauma. Like, I think if anybody is like so wound up that everything needs to be exactly in the right place, that is, causes inherent stress, because there has to be like these boundaries. And now that we've had these imposed upon us by the circumstances, or if you choose to blame a particular group for this or whatever, but that that takes us out of our natural habitat, our natural need to interact with others. And that is tough. And that's why, why we're here, is to try to find ways to cope and find ways to keep interacting with one another. Okay, so I want to share one other teaching before we go to our breakout groups. No, I can't remember what the teaching was I wanted to share. It was this one. Someone read the quote from Shlomo Wolbe on the bottom. A marvelous
exacting order permeates the world. From the microscopic atom and molecule that are its building blocks to the powerful constellations such as the sun and moon. This order testifies that there is a will directing the world, the will of the Creator.
Right, thank you. And I debated whether or not to include that second sentence, because that opens up a whole other set of issues. So if we hold our reactions to that, what is he talking about sort of in the first part of this quote?
I think on some level, he's saying, even though there's kind of chaos in the variety of things that exist in the universe, fundamentally, deep down underneath all of that is a layer of order, which is like a structural foundation, even if we can't see it with our naked eye.
Yeah, absolutely. Gravity. There are laws of physics behind these these movements of all the celestial bodies, and there are laws of physics and chemistry and biology that have to do with all these things happening in the small world. One of the interesting themes that came up in rabbinical school this year for me was, as you can well imagine, there are many, many different views of if there's a God, what the divinity is like, what's the nature of this, of the divine. But one of the most interesting arguments that I heard from a couple different sources, from Maimonides, is also in the book of Job, is that you can't figure out very much about the creator, but you can figure out quite a bit about the world that was created. And again, we don't, we may have differing views about whether there was a creator or what that may have looked like, but I think that, I think it would be a mistake to kind of separate, science and spirituality and somehow think that they're different things. What do the people think about that?
I don't know.
I think on some level, they have to be integrally tied, because both science and spirituality require and engender a sense of wonder. However you're perceiving the things that you're marveling at, on some level there's wonder, and that's kind of something that holds the two together in relationship.
Nice. That's
Wonder.
nice.
Thank you. Other thoughts?
Well, I never have seen the conflict in believing in science and believing in religion or spiritual practice. My father was a scientist, and I was around biology and chemistry all my life, and it's miraculous. And you know that because you're a scientist too. So it I'm befuddled that there is a conflict in that thinking. So I don't know how to respond. So except.
Okay, well, good. We've had a couple of good responses, and I think Andrea put a word in my head, which is wonder, which I think is something that maybe we can even incorporate, if you wish, into this next section when we do our breakout groups. So for those of you who are on the email list and who read the email, I suggested a call about a order practice to set aside a specific time every day to call someone, which can help, oh, I wrote east, but should be ease, help ease your isolation or theirs. So when we do the check-in, you know, I'll split you up into pairs as we do every week. You can check in where you are and talk about, you know, the degree that calls might be helpful for you or might be helpful for other people. You might want to talk about what might hold you back from reaching out to others. That's a really important part of Mussar practice, is understanding what is it that's holding me back from doing these things. And, you know, just as a wild card, you know, what role might wonder play in isolation? So in easing isolation. So now I'm going to set up the breakout rooms. Okay, so I'm opening the room. So please click on the screen to join your room. Okay, I see people are heading out. Ellen, Wendy, has my screen frozen? I have a feeling that it did. Can anybody hear me? Yeah, I'm hoping. Well, let's see what's going on with my Wi-Fi. Seems to be okay, but everyone else is frozen. So, well, I'm going to assume that everyone is in their rooms, and I'm going to start sharing my screen to go to the hidden teaching. Okay, so here we are in the hidden teaching. This is going into greater depth about that passage in the Torah that we looked at. It starts with assigning the Israelites to different locations. And then what we got was, it started giving additional details. So for the east, these tribes are over here. And then some other tribes are next to them. And I found this just a fascinating topic. For some reason, like I've shared this teaching with other people. I was like, isn't it interesting? Everybody has a place to go. And people be like, really? Well, you know, yeah, that's fine, but what's the big deal? But there was something about this teaching which I felt like I was missing. There was something going on here which I couldn't get my arms around. Well, I went to a Mussar Institute Kala. It was a weekend retreat. And we did a bunch of breakout groups, sort of looking at different issues that related to Mussar. And one group came back and said, you know, there aren't enough women authors in the Mussar literature. So I noticed, I'm like, geez, I was just about ready to turn in the final manuscript. And I realized that I had no women in the bibliography. So I wrote to everybody, and I got all of these, oh, I see Gordon and Carol, and I see a bunch of people in like breakout groups by themselves. That's not good. Let me see. let's give this a try. And Gordon, let's see if we can add you somewhere. Okay. So that should help keep us a little bit more on the balanced side. Okay. All right, so sorry for those of you who are watching the hidden teaching. So one of the sources I got was Rabbi Shefa Gold, who is really an incredible teacher of meditation and spirituality, chanting, niguns, and she wrote a book called Everyday Holy Day. And oops, hey, somebody's back. Hey there.
Yeah, I suddenly got suddenly switched from one room to another and came in the middle of someone else's conversation. So I thought I'd just come back to the main meeting.
Okay, it had you only as alone in the room. Is that not true? Were you? Let me move you back to where you were.
That was not true. I was not alone in a room.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. All right, Wendy, I'll resend you back to.
Andrea.
Yeah. Wow. Do you guys see a button to rejoin your rooms?
Join breakout room. Join breakout room. I just see on the bottom.
Yeah, so go try clicking join breakout room because you both have rooms you're assigned to. Yeah, because Andrea just went back in.
Tried to do it again. There you go. Tried to do it again. Maybe it's my computer. I don't know.
No, it wasn't. So yeah, click it again.
Even if I return to main session. Oh, okay. It says you have been assigned to breakout room 3, return to main session. So it doesn't have a place for me to.
So click return to main session.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to move you to one room and then move you to another one, okay? So join that room.
I didn't, nothing's up on the screen.
Huh, okay. Well, it's almost time to come back. So I think I'm gonna finish my teaching here. What I was talking about was this teaching where everyone is sort of on all these tribes were set on different sides of the tent of meeting. And what Shefa Gold wrote about was these different directions represent different parts of our personality and different parts of the day. East is facing things as they come up, and West is being anchored and secure. And so having order among these different drives in different parts of our brain is also pretty key. I'm going to, I think, close the rooms and have everybody start coming back now. And again, sorry, Wendy, things got messed up. My internet was misbehaving. So yeah, so sorry about that.
Where's the order?
Yes, we had an order breakdown, absolutely. A lack of trust as well. So yeah. All right, so we have about another 30 seconds till people start coming back in. Well, I appreciated your email. It sounds like you've had quite a bit of outreach that's been going on for you.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And it's also sad because I can't really actually be there. Just have the devices and the phone. And
yes.
letters, cards.
Wendy, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. I got booted out of our little chat. I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
I tried to fix it and I have no idea how to.
I don't know if you made
that was my fault. My internet was spotty, so it looked like some people were alone in their rooms. So I assigned them to new rooms, and then that just kind of blew up the whole show. So
well, her loss was our gain. So it was very nice to have you, Andrea.
Yes. But you guys, I think you should be able to chat each other if you want to exchange phone numbers and pick this up right afterwards. You can certainly do that if anyone else wishes to do that as well. So I'm curious, like what may come up in those talks in terms of order and isolation and reaching out to other people in wonder? I would love to kind of hear. We have a little bit more time today to hear if you had any insights about yourself or learned anything from those discussions.
Yeah. I met with Ellen, and I don't think Ellen will mind me saying this, but Ellen and we're good friends, but we're kind of opposites. She's this extrovert, and she likes to call people on the phone, and it's easy. And I'm this introvert, and I don't like to call people on the phone. I feel like, what if they don't want to talk to me? You know? So, but I do have a neighbor I call regularly. I try to call her at least twice a week. She's 91. Somebody's got to look out for her. I used to do her shopping and just go, well, I used to just hang out with her too. We've been friends for 30 years. But I can't do that anymore. And yeah, I don't call as much as I should. So maybe that's something, even though it's a little hard for me, it's awkward for me. I'm thinking maybe I should say, okay, every Monday I'm going to call so-and-so. And on Tuesday, I'm going to call this person. And on Wednesday, I'm going to call this person. Thursday, I'm too busy. I'm doing all the classes. Friday, I'll call Margaret. Sunday, I'll call Margaret. You know, and maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I need that order if I'm going to get there, because I'm probably not going to do it if I don't make a commitment of some kind.
Yeah, well, thank you, Carol. And that is one of the great advantages of scheduling. And I set up this, I picked 4 o'clock. I'm not doing it today because we're meeting during that time, obviously. But I've had some great conversations that I wouldn't have had. And scheduling can help us kind of get over, for in your case, you're being an introvert and feeling awkward about it. And yeah, because they might be totally delighted to hear from you.
We hope so.
Yeah. Knowing you, I bet they will.
Thank you.
What else? Other people had any insights or thoughts they'd like to share? Ken.
Unmute yourself.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, I just want to, one point, something was said that triggered something just before we went into the break, and then talking in the break, it came up. And that is, the feelings of like sadness. And I asked, what in particular is sadness with you? And there's frustration and so on and so forth. But one thing that I've learned in particular this last week that might be very helpful, and that is, I'm into order right now. We're wanting to get my place orderly. And I had this conversation. I was very, very frustrated that I didn't complete what I wanted to get done. And I saw a pattern here where I get frustrated, if not depressed, that I didn't accomplish the things that I wanted to get done. And I made the point just now that sadness to frustration to depression can be about things that we wish we could do or were doing and aren't there to fulfill that inner wanting. And I think it's a valid point, and I think it's a very important point. And the suggestion, the remedy that came up from me that I mentioned was positiveness, bringing in things that made me uplifted, like positive music, staying away from the news, getting depressed by being into that, and then doing what you're talking about, connecting with loved ones. the spirit is there, and it creates excitement and creativity as opposed to being depressed and frustrated and frozen.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll vote for creativity and positivity over depressed and frozen. I like that, Ken. That's good. And also the again, like the first things first and last things later. When doing a cleanup task, sometimes if we break that into smaller tasks, it's like, okay, the whole project isn't done, but the first part of the project is done. I can declare victory and then call a friend or put on some music or something like that. So those are other sort of organizational tasks or ways to bring order in that can help with that. Other thoughts that people had or other experiences?
Greg, I agree with you. And then I'm very aware of this inner voice that I just made the decision, I'm going to do that. And the voice says, nah, you're not going to do it. And often now at this moment, I feel I would be probably now clinically depressed after this medical issue I had. And I really feel depressed and I feel heavy and I'm kind of blah, and I like my melancholy and I like to feel sorry for myself. And it's stupid, I understand, So, but that's how I feel. So I'm walking daily 4 to 5 miles. I'm not giving up, so I keep pushing forward.
Well, thank you. And do you have that so that's a boundary that you've set. That's a schedule that you've set. And yeah, I'm so glad you got through that health issue, but it takes stuff out of us. And what you're describing is that war between the good inclination and the evil inclination, where you want to do something positive, and then the evil inclination is like, no, that's a dumb idea. No, you're not going to do that. So yeah, that's a battle we all face. Absolutely. Okay, well, we will do our closing meditation now, and then I wanted to share just a couple of things. Actually, right before the closing meditation, I do want to share some additional ideas for Mussar practices that you can think about. I hope you will stick with this idea of calling someone, but other ways that you can practice order is to think about where you sit on the spectrum. Practicing trust by letting go of a situation. If you tend to be super ordered, maybe letting things go a little bit. And I don't need to read all of these out loud. People can look at them. I did that unsubscribe from email lists. That's become part of my regular practice now. It's just I subscribe to this list because I like the person and as a favor, but you know what? It's just not my thing. So, I'm gonna unsubscribe. It's not personal. I'll call them instead, and we'll catch up in a personal way. Okay, so now let's all relax and close our eyes once again. I take in a deep breath through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And inhale through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And tilt your head back and smile. And focus on the light that's filtering through your eyelids. This is the light of your divine spark. It's always with you. It's always accepting. Wherever you may be on the spectrum of order, whatever you may or may not be doing, it's always in your corner. And it always has your back. Now, a moment of gratitude for this hour of calm and peace together. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Thank you all so much for being here. I want to share some information in the chat. So just if you wanted to go back and look at some of the past blog posts or some links to the past video recordings, you can find that on our Jewish Wisdom page. You're also invited to like and follow the American Mussar Facebook page, where I usually post updates just about every day. And if you're not on the email list and you'd like to be on the email list to get the daily or to get the Tuesday emails, you're very much invited to join that. So wishing everyone a Chag Sameach, a happy holiday, a happy Shavuot. Perhaps if for the Beth Almers and the crowd, I might see you at the event later tonight on Zoom. So wishing you well, and very much looking forward to seeing you next week.
Likewise. Have a good week, everyone.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.